That one cut out a little bit on me, but I'm going to try to make sure I get it pulled together. It was, what could the effect of the block grants have on new agricultural education programs, I think. The effect on the new programs would be that there isn't that financial incentive to start the program, because the block grant is based on how much money they got the year that they didn't have an ag ed program. So if they started an ag program in the old system, then they wouldn't have had the opportunity to get that money. But if they start an ag ed program under the block system, how much money they're getting is already set. So in the old system, it would have gone up. In the new system, it won't.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So like, as a school district, if your school needs the money for your ag ed program, how do you go about getting the funding for that if the amount is set based upon the years past?
So the question was, if you have a need for money within your school district, and that money is based on what you had before, how could you get it potentially more money for your program? With that, obviously comes some challenges. The biggest concern is we have to understand that even in the old system, every ag ed program generated so much money, but that check wasn't sent to the school in the form of, this is the amount of money designated for the ag ed program, and this blank amount of money is designated for special ed, and this amount of money is designated for transportation. That's how the formula worked, but in the end, a check was just sent, and it was one large check, and how a school chose to invest that money was completely up to them. Now, within ag education, we do have some items set forth to check to make sure that our programs are getting the type of funding that they need, and that system is done through our career clusters pathway applications. Those are done by the ag teachers and turned into the State Department of Education with Mr. Dillon. So that's was basically how the ag teachers were saying, here are the types of things that my program is doing. Years ago, they would ask for us to say, here's the amount of money that was spent on the ag ed program. It's not to that point now, but it is a way to go to the school and say, we need to invest in some new equipment or this or that because we are generating these funds. And with the block grant system, we're no longer able to say, well, I'm generating more funds, therefore I should be able to expand or purchase something, because we're not generating those funds on a head count like we used to be. Okay, are there other questions out there? We have about 10 more minutes left. Question came in earlier. You mentioned that we are filling some open positions with alternatively certified individuals. Are those individuals a permanent solution or a temporary fix? Also, where are those individuals coming from, and is there a way to introduce them to agricultural education earlier? That's a great question. Alternatively certified individuals in some situations are what I would say a school deems to be a permanent solution, and in other situations I think the school is identifying that as a temporary fix. Both of those systems exist, and that's going to change depending on how the school district is going about it. Some of them are hiring long-term subs to make it so that they can open their position earlier in the following year, so that hopefully they can get some of the first candidates or look at all of the candidates. Others are hiring an individual that, say, for example, had an agriculture degree, and then they are working to get their education certificate while they are in the classroom. I think that we can all admit that there would be some challenges with that system, but it does exist because of this shortage. Where are those individuals coming from? Some of them are local individuals in those communities who have perhaps an agriculture degree, but they need to get certified to teach. Some of them are current teachers, say for example a biology teacher who is going to who already has a teaching degree but needs to get certified in agriculture. We have two groups that are kind of flowing back and forth. You really kind of need to either have an agriculture degree or an education degree, and then you can work to get the other side of that filled. That can be a great way to help us keep some programs open, but we also realize that if we're bringing in someone who isn't as familiar with agricultural education and FFA, we have to make sure that we have the ability to teach them about our program as a whole, not just how to teach agriculture, but how to do the three-circle model. Maybe they understand teaching, but how can we help them understand what FFA looks like and how it works, and how can we get them up to speed on supervised agricultural experiences and how important they are to our three-circle model. Is there a way to introduce them to agricultural education earlier? I think that's a great question, and I think that's maybe one of the greatest challenges that we face as we try to recruit future teachers. There's a lot of people who see the benefits of ag teaching as a career later on in life, maybe with a little bit more maturity, because they then appreciate maybe it's not about the income, but it's about that I have more time with my family, I can work here in my community, I can really make a difference. And so those benefits don't necessarily are something that can be appreciated early as a person is trying to decide what they want to do, but sometimes they realize later on that ag ed is a good fit. One of the things that we have here and we work with is a master's in certification program. So if a young person gets a degree in agriculture and then they would like to get their ag teaching degree, we can actually work with them on a master's program in order to do that. So that is a way to catch some people who didn't want to do it as they maybe entered college, but now they realize that they'd like to do it and they're interested in a master's program. I have another typed in question. It seems important to target ag education in a high school setting. At my high school, certain ag classes provide a science credit. This improved our ag class and FFA population. Is this something that is Kansas-wide, nationwide, and if not, how can it be expanded? Whether or not you get a science credit can depend on what your school deems as science credit. That's different than Board of Regents science credit, but we also have some classes that are Board of Regents science. So it is something that's happening in Kansas. There are other states that are doing it, and I think that it's headed in the right direction with that. We have a question. For those who are leaving ag ed after teaching for a while, what is their main reason for leaving and where are they going from there besides retirement? In the recent past, we have seen that agriculture is doing really well in the state of Kansas. So some people have been drawn to return to an agriculture operation and basically go back home to farm. Totally understand why that might be near and dear to the heart of an ag teacher, and some have had the opportunity to do that and they've chose to do that. Some young people are staying to raise their families, and we definitely see how that would be a huge draw and something that could be hard to compete with. We also have young people going into agribusiness, working in, aside from production agriculture, working in agriculture sales, marketing, ag finance, managing co-ops, working for credit, agriculture credit and lending. Those have all been a draw to some people who maybe taught for a couple of years and then they opted to do something else. Another great question. Okay, I don't see any others coming in, and we would like to finish up in about 5 minutes. So if you don't mind, I want to leave you with a few things to think about as you prepare for the next week, and maybe some things that you could spend some time considering and contemplating in preparation for your work with our delegates. So I'm going to call these some points to ponder. An agricultural education degree provides a bright future for graduates. Think about, do you agree with this? And if you do, how can we educate people about that bright future for graduates? If you don't agree with this, what can we do to make it a brighter future for young people? Okay, let's look at the next one. Most ag teachers talk positively about their job to their students. So first of all, do you agree, yes or no? And if they do talk positively, how can we maybe magnify that so that it really gets out there that it's a really awesome career? If you feel like no, maybe they don't, how can we help our teachers identify some of those things that is really positive about their job and why they chose to do it in the first place? To be a successful agricultural education major, you do not have to come through an agricultural education program. I think sometimes we really narrow our focus group when we only recruit to people who have been through an ag ed program. But we have a huge amount of the population that we could tap into that might find that working with young people and working in agriculture is something that they can get really excited about. So how can we target that group, and how can we also help them get those experiences with FFA and agricultural education prior to graduation? Another one to think about, is it important that ag students help recruit future teachers? And if you think it is, what can we do? And if you don't think it is, then who should be doing this? Another thought, do you believe that communities should be concerned if they are in need of an ag ed teacher? If you think that they should be concerned about this, what can you do to help? How can you educate the community about this shortage and help them find a great teacher? And if you believe that maybe they shouldn't be concerned, then where are some places that we can go to make sure that they have a great ag teacher? And I'll open it up again for questions, and if you need to contact me directly, my information is there. Most importantly, I'm really excited to see you soon. We're excited to have you on campus in a short week, and I know that the experience that you have ahead of you is an awesome one. You're going to grow and learn and experience very cool things with very cool people. I applaud each and every one of you for stepping up to the plate and running for a state office. And please know if there's anything I can do to help you, we're here to help. So any final thoughts or questions?
I just have a quick one.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I saw that map that you had where there were a few states that didn't have as much of an ag teacher shortage.
Yep.
Have we looked at what they're doing to maybe retain those ag teachers or get those agricultural educators involved?
I think that's a great question. So the question was, if we referred back to the US map that we showed really early in the presentation, there were a handful of states who weren't experiencing a shortage. Have we explored what they are doing to maybe prevent them from having a shortage? I am pretty sure that Ellen Thompson, who coordinates the National Teach Ag campaign, has probably looked into that. I personally have not, but that's a really great question, and I'll reach out to her and see if that is an area that they have studied. I would guess, and I know you can get in trouble by guessing, but I would guess that some of those states just simply don't have very many programs that they need to fill. Some of our smaller, especially our East Coast states, may only have a handful of programs in their state. Therefore, having a shortage is not as critical. But I think that you have a really good point, and maybe we're overlooking something that they're doing well. And I will send that question to Ellen Thompson.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So since we will be working with like the little committees as to run them, what are like maybe the top 3 things or a few things that we should really get across to these students to make sure they know while we're there?
Great question. The question was, we're going to be working with delegates, you guys are one-on-one, and what are the messages we want to get across? I think first and foremost, we want to get the facts across. And hopefully with the information you received on the one-page flyer and this presentation has helped you guys really carry the facts. What is going on? What are the real issues? The second one, I think that it's going to be really important to gather any misconceptions. Are there misconceptions from young people about what it is like to be an ag teacher? And if there are misconceptions out there, how can we educate about them so that we have the right information out there? I think thirdly, and most importantly, it's not about trying to convince every single individual to be a future ag teacher, but how can we convince the ones that have the right skills and the ones that really have skills in working with young people and agriculture? We need excited people. We need the right people involved and excited about agricultural education. And I would challenge each of you during your time next week with convention to identify 1, 2, 3, 5 young people that you see that you think, wow, I think that they really could be a great ag teacher, and tell them that. Don't be frustrated if you say, hey, what do you plan to do in college? And they say, oh, I'm really excited about milling science. Say, that's awesome. Milling science is a really cool degree. But if that doesn't work out for you, I really think that you should consider ag ed. That conversation helps us understand that the average college freshman changes their major 3 times. So what they think they're going to go into next week might not be what they do when they're actually in college 2 or 3 years from now, or when they're in their first 2 or 3 years of college. When you think you know what you want to do and that doesn't work out, if we've laid that idea that ag ed could be a great place for them, they might get into that initial career and think, oh, actually this isn't for me. And then they kind of feel lost. But if we've laid that groundwork and said, I think you might be a great ag teacher, then perhaps their second thought that comes to their mind is, I was always told I could be a great ag teacher. And perhaps we can get a hold of them there. Okay, other questions from the group?
This is just kind of a logistics question, but how will we be able to access this after it's done?
Great question. So I thought I had set it up for recording, but it actually started recording partially through. This afternoon, I will redo the presentation so that it will be posted in its entirety. And we will send out a link to all of the candidates so that those of you that were with us who want to see it again are able to do that. And anyone who wasn't able to see it, we can make sure that they have the ability to go and view it afterhand. So, see, I just got a note from Lindsay, and I think she sent it to all of you. This will include she's going to be sending out some more information. And I will be working with your delegates for just a short time next week as well to help them have some of these foundational information so that we can make sure it happens. Great question. All right, folks, good luck on your week ahead of preparation. Most of all, great luck to you as you work with the young people next week. We're so excited to have you excited about Kansas FFA. Have a great day.